advice on that. And I'm starting my podcast. We're on episode 30, so you're my 30th guest.
Oh, I'm honored.
It's an honor to have you, and excited to grow. Also, I think we know people in common. Sudhanshu Mishra was a senior of mine. He's a good friend. So
No way. No way. Slanchu is literally one of my favorite people. We interned at McKinsey together in
wow.
2016. So we go back a really, really long time. And he literally danced at my wedding. So
Oh,
that's
really?
yeah.
Did not know that. That's great. Another thing I would love to add. So one reason I'm super interested in Sitch and what you're building, my girlfriend and I met her on Bumble, and we consider ourselves like a dating app success story. Very serious about her. So she gave me a long list of questions. She's like, ask her this, ask her this, So
I love that. I love that. I mean, honestly, like Bumble, like Whitney Wolf has been one of my biggest inspirations. So
right,
I think, they innovated, like the traditional swiping apps innovated like 10 years ago, and it's
right,
ripe for disruption and it's ripe for new blood. And the problem is that dating app success stories like yourselves are so far and few between now
right.
that we really need to think about like what can we do to like really improve.
Yeah, definitely. And I noticed I actually downloaded your app. My girlfriend scolded me, but I was like, research purposes only.
Research, you can delete it immediately.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I did. But I noticed the questions you guys asked, and I noticed on your LinkedIn you specialize in prompt engineering. So I made the connection. I was like, wow. And then I saw that reel of you and your co-founder, and I was like, okay, there's something here. So excited to kind of unravel some of these disruptions that you say that you are headed towards in terms of traditional swipe apps. So yeah.
awesome. I'm so excited to get started, and
Sure.
obviously like happy to answer any and all questions, unless of course it's like too much of a trade secret, but I don't
Understood.
think we'll get to that. so,
For sure.
so yeah, I guess like I'll leave, like have you like let me know if I should do like the quick introduction, and
Yes,
then
of course.
uh,
So could you start right at the top? Where did you grow up? What were you like as a kid? What were your motivations? What path did you follow all the way up to the inspiration and the motivation for this app? So, yeah.
it's funny that we're on a podcast about Stoicism, because I actually would describe myself as the exact opposite of it. Like
Oh,
I
really?
am really like, the best way to describe me is like, maybe like I love the ups and the downs. Like I think one
Right.
of the most beautiful things in life is really like to feel the highs and feel the
Yeah.
lows, and know that those are both temporary, and that like you'll like swim through them along the way. But I love I love a good cry. I love to be
Right.
super excited. I'm like generally very like a happy, positive person. Like I don't like feeling the same emotion for too long. And I've sort of like always been like this. I've always been a very outgoing person. I love to chat with people. And I think certain things are genetic and hereditary. And I'm
Definitely.
very like my maternal grandma, so my nanny.
Right.
And of all, like I like say it's from even like the small things where it's like she's the only person from my six, like my parents and grandparents, who has curly hair. We have a lot of
Mhm.
the same mannerisms. We love to chat with anyone. But
Mhm.
most importantly, she's a matchmaker. So she
Oh,
set up 26 couples, and I kind of grew up like with her, just like always talking about it. She like always was like on the phone with someone on her landline, being like, oh,
right.
had your son or daughter met this person? Oh, let me connect them. That kind of like vibe. So
Right.
when you grow up in that culture, I grew up in Bombay. Grew up in like a very like a very typical like Indian background, where
Right.
there's a lot of people who have arranged marriages. There's a lot of people who get set up by their families, by their extended friends. Like, I think that there's like very much a culture of your like networks and connections helping you make this like big decision about your life. So I always grew
100%.
up in that, right? And I think that really influenced me from a young age. I will also say that Bollywood movies definitely influenced me. Like I'm
Of
a big
course.
tech.
Yeah.
And I love like I'm like you'll never catch me reading nonfiction. Like you will always catch
Oh,
me reading crunchy romance. Like that's like
love
my
it.
guilty. Like I'm never like, oh, like I want to watch TV or anything like that. Like my big thing is like, it's like you'll catch me reading like a Regency romance. You'll catch me
Right.
reading like an Emily Henry book. You'll catch me just like really like romance and love has just been a thing that I've always enjoyed and
Right.
like loved. right? So that's kind of like, like sort of the undercurrent of like my interests and passions alongside a bunch of different things that have just like existed, along the way. And yeah, I grew up in India, grew up in Bombay, went to K through 12 school up until the 10th grade, then actually went to boarding school not far from you in New Hampshire.
I see.
So I went for my 11th and 12th grade to Phillips Exeter. And that was a really big transition for me life-wise, just because you grow up I grew up going to a Catholic school where everyone had been in the same class since we were in the second grade, all of that. Right. And, I got put in this new environment. And I think one of the first things that like I was like faced with was everyone at Exeter is incredibly smart. And my identity sort of coming up until that point was, my differentiating factor amongst my like group in school is that I'm really smart. But when you're in an environment where everyone is smart, which was the first time in my life I was really dealing with that, like the Math Olympiad team goes to Exeter, like, you're like really like dealing with like the top kids from every single high school across the US and across the world. Yeah. So suddenly it became like, well, what is my identity then, right? Like, what makes me different from all of the other smart kids? And something that I really sort of like honed in on was, again, this like love and relationships and like whatnot. It just was a thing that I enjoyed. So I actually started a column in our high school newspaper called Guru Nandini Says, and it was a dating advice column. So you can really see those like connective, like invisible string that like goes through my neck. So I like start this column, and it is absolutely insane. Like it is really not what 16-year-olds should be publishing. Like it's like a controversial thing. And keep in mind that this is being published in the oldest high school newspaper in America. Like it is like, this is not like, we're printing it on A4 pages and like we're distributing it. It's like,
it's very prestigious. Like the newspaper.
Yeah, every week this goes out to alumni, to families. Like it is like a real like physical thing. The trustees after 3 weeks were like, what is she doing? Like, what is going on? Who has approved any of this, And that's like, and they literally like, this column cannot run. But it like kind of like started this like, I don't want to say like, just, it created this brand and identity around me at boarding school of like, I'm like the relationship person. Like, I love talking about dating. I give great advice. Unclear if it was true at that time whether I gave good advice or I was just good at writing pretty like funny pieces. But I mean, like that was like, again, like as I was going through life, it just started to become like, as my identity was forming, this like love aspect just like existed in it. I then went to Georgetown for college, and at Georgetown, I like walked into like the School of Foreign Service, like very